Silver bites into my wrists with every step, each rattling link a reminder that I am walking toward my own execution. The corridors of the Blood Moon stronghold are all black stone and shadows, lit by torches that make the air smell like smoke and old secrets. Omegas like me don't get trials, we get sentences. My father betrayed the Alpha King. My mother was executed screaming his name. Now I'm the last Castellano, and the pack wants my blood to finish the story. The guards shove me through towering doors, and I stumble to my knees on cold stone. I keep my gaze down until a voice like thunder orders, "Look at me, Omega!" When I finally lift my head, I see him. Christopher Ward, Alpha King. Dark hair falling past his shoulders, jaw honed like a blade, eyes burning hot enough to make my wolf cower. He should kill me. Instead, he gives me a choice that isn't a choice at all. One night in his chambers. If I survive his presence until dawn, he'll spare my life. They say an Alpha King's power can shatter an Omega's mind. I guess we're about to find out if that's true. The throne room empties on a single command. Leave us. The word cracks through the air like a whip. Armor clinks, boots scrape against stone, and the guards who dragged me in only moments ago vanish to the edges of my vision before the heavy doors boom shut behind them. The echo rolls through my bones, final and absolute. We are alone. I feel him looking at me before I dare to lift my head. His presence is like a weight pressing down from all sides, heavy and suffocating, demanding that I bow lower, that I stay small. My wolf curls in on herself, a low whine vibrating in my chest that I clamp down on through sheer stubbornness. "Stand up, Isabella Castellano." He says my full name like a sentence. My legs tremble as I push myself to my feet. The silver cuffs around my wrists burn, the metal cutting into already raw skin, but I grit my teeth and rise anyway. When I finally meet his eyes, the world narrows to amber fire and a face carved in harsh, unforgiving lines. Christopher Ward, Alpha King of Blood Moon. Up close, he is worse than the rumors. Broader than any warrior I've ever seen, shoulders wrapped in dark fur and leather armor that looks more like it has tasted war than ceremony. His hair falls past his shoulders in dark waves, a few braids threaded with metal rings catching the torchlight. His jaw is sharp, his mouth firm, and his eyes burn with something that is not just anger. "Do you know why you're here?" he asks, voice low and even. I swallow, the motion scraping against a throat gone dry. "Because my father is a traitor." The corner of his mouth tightens. "Your father," he says, walking down the steps of his throne with slow, measured steps, "sold my patrol routes to rogues. 12 of my wolves died because of him. Do you know their names?" I shake my head before I can stop myself. Shame burns hot under my skin. "No," I whisper. "Of course you don't." He circles me, his scent wrapping around me, pine, smoke, and something darker, like storm-charged air. "Do you know what your father did after that? After the slaughter?" "He ran," I manage. "Everyone knows the story." "He ran," Christopher repeats, voice clipped. "He vanished like the coward he was, and left his mate to answer for his crimes." The room tilts for a second. I stare straight ahead, forcing myself not to flinch. "My mother was innocent," I say, even though the words feel weak, flimsy against 5 years of pack-wide hatred. "She told me she didn't know." He is in front of me before I see him move, one hand snapping out to grip my chin. His fingers are warm, calloused, and impossibly strong. My breath catches. "She died," he says softly, dangerously, "screaming my name and your father's. Do you understand that?" I do. I was there. I remember my mother's voice breaking, remember the way the pack watched with cold, righteous fury as the Alpha King raised his hand and passed sentence. I remember the sound of her body hitting the ground. I remember the way no one met my eyes afterward. I nod, because words won't come. His gaze searches my face, as if he's trying to peel back my skin and see whatever ugly thing hides beneath it. I want to look away, to drop my eyes, but something stubborn and stupid inside me refuses. Good, he says at last, releasing my chin. My skin tingles where his fingers were. Then you understand why you should already be dead. The matter-of-fact way he says it sends a shiver through me. My wolf presses against my ribs, frantic, begging me to submit, to apologize, to do anything that might soften him. I force my hands to stay at my sides. Then why am I not? I ask quietly. He studies me for a long moment, head slightly tilted, a predator considering whether to play with its food before it eats. Because I am curious, he says finally. 5 years ago, your mother did something remarkable while she burned. She begged for your life. His eyes darken. She said you carried her strength, not your father's cowardice. I want to know if she was right. My chest tightens so abruptly it hurts. I picture my mother's face, soot-streaked and desperate, and I want to scream. Instead, I stand very still. What do you want from me? My voice comes out steadier than I feel. A bargain, Christopher says. He steps back, giving me space that doesn't feel like mercy. It feels like the moment before a trap snaps shut. Your life is forfeit, he continues. By every law of this pack, you should join your parents into the ground, but there is one alternative. I hear the guard's words in my head again, whispered while they chained me. One night. My stomach drops. What kind of alternative? I ask, though part of me already knows. He smiles then, and it is a terrible thing, not kind, not reassuring, a flash of teeth that looks like the start of a bite. You survived my presence until dawn, he says, and I let you live. My heart stutters. Your presence. You're an Omega, he says, as if I need reminding. Your wolf is built to bend, to submit, to be shaped by stronger wills. An Alpha King's power is considerable. I know the rumors. Omegas who get too close to him, who linger in his orbit too long, come away wrong. Shaky, vacant-eyed. Some don't come away at all. What happens if I don't survive? I ask. His gaze doesn't waver. Then death will be kinder than what awaits you. Cold spreads through my limbs, thinner and sharper than fear. My choices. Die now by his hand, or risk my mind, my soul, my wolf, in the hope of a dawn I might not recognize if I reach it. He watches the war on my face, the way my fingers curl against the pull of the silver, the way my throat works around words I can't quite speak. His eyes soften for a fraction of a second, so fast I almost think I imagined it. You can refuse, he says, if you prefer the certainty of the executioner. My mother's face flashes in my mind again. Not in those final moments, but before, laughing in the tiny kitchen, teaching me to run the forest trails barefoot, telling me the story of our bloodline, the strength hidden in softness. Strength isn't about being the biggest wolf, Issa, she'd said once, brushing hair from my eyes. It's about what you refuse to surrender. I lift my chin. I'll take the bargain, I say. If I survive until dawn, you let me go, completely. No chains, no collar, no orders. Free. Something like respect flickers in his gaze. You have my word, he replies. On my blood and my throne. The oath settles in the air between us, heavy and binding. My wolf shivers under it. He turns without another word and strides toward a side door carved into the stone. When it opens, a gust of cooler air washes over us, carrying the sense of fur, smoke, and something warmer, linen and old parchment. Come, he says, not looking back. Your night begins now. My feet feel like they're made of stone, but I force them to move. The chains rattle as I follow him down a narrower hall, lit by fewer torches. Wolves linger in the shadows, warriors and servants both, watching us pass with open contempt, open curiosity, and something uglier. I hear the murmurs. Traitor's brat. Omega. She won't last an hour. Heat crawls up the back of my neck, but I keep my gaze fixed on Christopher's broad back. His stride is unhurried, confident, as if he's already certain how this will end. We reach a pair of heavy wooden doors banded in iron. 2 guards flank them, eyes widening when they realize where he's taking me. One opens his mouth as if to speak, then thinks better of it and steps aside. Christopher pushes the doors open and steps through. I hesitate on the threshold, breath catching. I expected a dungeon, chains, bloodstains. Instead, his chambers are beautiful. High ceilings crossed with dark beams, a massive bed draped in furs, a stone hearth with a low fire burning, filling the room with warmth and the crackle of embers. Shelves line one wall, crowded with books and maps. On the opposite wall hangs an array of weapons, swords, axes, knives that gleam amber in the firelight. It feels less like a prison and more like the den of something ancient and dangerous. My heel falters. His hand closes around my wrist, hot even through the bite of the silver, and he yanks me fully inside. The door slams shut behind me with a final echoing thud, and I hear the lock slide into place. The instant the latch clicks, something invisible slams into me. His power. It hits like a storm front, thick and electric, washing over my skin, pushing against my mind, my wolf, my bones. My vision blurs at the edges. My knees buckle. I hit the floor hard, a hoarse sound tearing from my throat as my wolf rolls over, instinct screaming, "Submit! Submit! Submit!" Christopher stands over me, eyes glowing faintly gold in the firelight, arms folded across his chest as if this is a spectacle he's paid to watch. "Welcome to your bargain, Isabella," he says, voice rich with dark satisfaction. "Let's see," he adds, "what you're really made of." Christopher's power crawls over my skin like smoke and iron, slipping under every breath I take, tightening with each exhale. It presses against my mind, my wolf, my bones, until it feels like invisible hands are closing around my throat. My Omega instincts scream at me to roll, to bare my neck, to let him inside and make it stop. I stay on my knees instead, fingers digging into the fur rug until they ache. "Breathe," he says, as if we're sparring, not watching to see how fast I break. "You'll pass out too quickly if you keep fighting me that hard." I drag air into my lungs in short, jagged pulls. It tastes like smoke and him. He turns his back on me, crossing to the low table by the fire, his presence stretching with him, never loosening. He uncorks a bottle, pours dark wine into 2 crystal glasses, with unhurried precision. 16, he says. "That's how many died because of your father." "You said 12, I manage. "That was the first wave." He comes back, holding out a glass. My hands shake too much to take it, so he sets it on the floor between us. "Rogues hit the patrol, then our dens, 4 pups, my cousin, all because your father sold them my roots." I picture the pack torn open and it feels like knives inside my chest. "I didn't know," I whisper. His eyes harden. "You were sheltered by the woman we found with blood to her elbows." My breath stutters. "My mother wouldn't." "She was in your house," he cuts in, voice flat. "Blood on her hands, on her dress, in the basin. She refused to explain. She refused to give up your father. She just kept saying your name." My mother's hands flash in my mind, braiding my hair, pushing bread toward me, tracing little circles on my back when nightmares came. Not covered in blood, not like that. "She loved this pack," I say, throat tight. "She loved you. She would never sell you out." The words are out before I can swallow them back. The air changes. His power spikes, slamming into me so hard my vision whites out. My elbows buckle and I barely catch myself before I hit the floor. My wolf lets out a broken whine, desperate to submit. "Look at me, Isabella." His voice is soft, deadly. Every instinct says don't, but the command curls into my spine and drags my head up. His eyes glow molten amber, fixed on mine, the full force of his dominance focused like a blade. "Your mother died because I sentenced her," he says. "I watched the light leave her eyes, and you stand there telling me she wasn't a traitor." "Yes." The word scrapes out of me, thin but steady. The pressure builds, pressure and heat, and the urge to drop my gaze, to break, to be anything he wants if he'll just release me. My heartbeat roars in my ears. Spots dance at the edges of my sight. "She wouldn't do it," I push out. "You don't get to change who she was because it's easier to hate her." For a heartbeat, his expression cracks. Pain, fury, something else flickering there. Then his jaw locks again. The crushing weight of his power holds a moment longer, then eases, just enough that I can suck in a full breath without sobbing. He studies me like I'm something unexpected. "You should be on the floor by now," he says. "Most Omegas either cry or cling." "I'm not most Omegas." My voice still shakes, but it exists. That feels like a victory. "No," he agrees quietly. "You're not." He crouches so we're almost eye level. Up close, the scar along his jaw is visible, a pale slash against tanned skin. The firelight carves hard shadows into his face, but his eyes are searching, not just condemning. "I thought this night would be simple," he murmurs. "I push. You shatter. Balance restored." He nudges the wine glass closer with 2 fingers. I wrap my hands around it to stop them from trembling in the air. The first sip burns down my throat, grounding me in heat that isn't him. "But you keep looking me in the eye," he says. "Maybe I'm stupid," I say. "Or maybe I just know my mother better than you did at the end." His mouth twitches, almost a smile, gone as quickly as it appears. "Loyalty," he says. "Or denial. I haven't decided." He rises, and his presence swells with him, still heavy but no longer crushing. He turns back toward the fire, shoulders rigid under the fur. "Don't mistake this for mercy," he adds. "We're nowhere near dawn." My muscles ache. My mind feels flayed raw, but somewhere under the fear, something steadier uncurls. Breaking, I realize, isn't instantaneous. It's a long, slow pressure, and I've been living under pressure my whole life. Silence settles between us, thick as the stone walls. Christopher stands with his back to me, one hand braced on the mantel, fingers digging into the carved edge like he'd rather be crushing a throat. The fire throws restless light over him, over the fur on his shoulders, over the line of his spine. "Say it again," he says. My heart stutters. "That my mother loved you?" His shoulders flinch barely, but I see it. "We were children when we met," he says after a moment. His voice has changed, quieter, rougher around the edges. "2 little wolves who thought the world began and ended at the tree line. Our fathers arranged the bond before we were old enough to shift. Alpha and Luna united. A strong pack, a stronger future." The words should sound like a story he's told too many times. Instead, they come out like something dragged over broken glass. I push myself up from the floor until I'm sitting with my back to the bed. My legs are trembling, but I manage to keep them folded instead of sprawled. My wolf is very still, ears pricked. "You were supposed to be mates," I say. He laughs once, short and humorless. "Supposed to be." He turns his head just enough that I see his profile. Firelight cuts across his cheek, catching on the faint scar at his jaw. "She chose your father instead." The words hang there, raw. I knew my parents' marriage wasn't a fairy tale, but I never understood why the pack's resentment tasted so personal when they looked at my mother. Now I do. "You loved her," I say quietly. His jaw tightens. "That isn't relevant." "It is to me." He turns fully then, eyes finding mine. Whatever he usually wraps himself in, rage, power, that icy distance, it's thinner now. I can see something underneath, bruised and years old. "She stood beside me at every ceremony," he says. "She blooded herself on the same oaths I did. We trained together, fought together. She swore she would be my Luna. His mouth twists. And then one spring, she went on a scouting trip with your father and came back different. I see it for a moment. Elena younger, laughing, wind-tangled hair, standing next to him at the edge of the forest. Then standing beside my father instead. She told me the bond the elders arranged wasn't the one the moon chose. Christopher continues. She said she loved him, that she couldn't be mine and look me in the eye. That staying would be its own kind of treason. Pain threads his voice on that last word, so sharp it makes my chest ache. You never forgave her, I say. No, he answers simply. I didn't. He steps closer, each footfall measured. And when my patrol died and your father vanished, and we found Elena standing in your doorway with blood on her hands, what do you think I saw, Isabella? I swallow. Proof. Confirmation, he agrees, that she'd been a coward twice, first with her heart, then with her loyalty. My throat burns. All those years of him carrying that version of her, feeding it with anger, until it turned into something sharp enough to live on. I don't believe it, I say, softly but sure. You didn't know her the way I did. And you didn't know her the way I did, I fire back, heat slipping into my voice. You knew the girl you wanted beside you. I knew the woman who stayed when my father left, who worked herself bloody to keep me fed, who taught me every pack law by heart because she said ignorance could get us killed. His gaze narrows, studying me like he's trying to reconcile those two ghosts. My pulse hammers, but another thought pushes forward, terrifying and obvious. If you were supposed to be mates, I whisper, then why do I feel this? His eyes darken. The air thickens again, his power stirring like a beast waking. Feel what? He asks, though his voice says he already knows. The words taste like blasphemy. Like my wolf wants to crawl closer instead of away. Like your voice sits under my skin. Like I've known your scent my whole life and I shouldn't have. Something flickers across his face. Shock, denial, recognition. All of it at once. Elena's blood, he says, almost to himself. Moon above. He comes toward me, slow as a stalking predator. My body tenses, ready to flee even though there's nowhere to go. The closer he gets, the louder my wolf becomes. Not in fear this time, but in a strange, aching awareness. His presence swells, not the brutal slam from before, but a dense, humming pressure that pushes against every inch of me. My skin feels too tight. My heart is everywhere at once. He stops directly in front of me, so close his boots brush my knees. For a long, suspended moment, he just looks down at me, eyes burning gold around the edges. Don't, I whisper, not sure whether I mean don't touch me or don't stop. His hand lifts anyway. I expect iron, violence. Instead, his fingers touch my cheek with a care that makes my breath catch. His palm is rough and hot, thumb skimming the edge of my jaw. A faint tremor runs through his hand, betraying everything his face doesn't. It's wrong, he says quietly, as if reassuring himself. You're his. You carry his name. I carry hers too, I say, voice barely there. His pupils widen. For one dizzy second, the world narrows to the places our skin meets. Heat arcs from his touch straight down my spine. My wolf presses up, purring, of all things, tilting into that contact like it's something she's been starved of. His power crashes over me again, but it's different this time. Less like a fist, more like a tide, dragging at me, wrapping around me, trying to pull me under and closer all at once. My vision blurs at the edges. My thoughts fray. Christopher, I gasp. The room tilts. My muscles go liquid. I feel my grip on myself slipping. The part of me that is Isabella Castellano, the girl, the Omega, the traitor's daughter, peeling away under the sheer force of the Elf King. Panic flares. Not like this. Not by breaking. My knees slide on the rug, as I would have toppled sideways. But suddenly, his arm is around me, iron and heat, hauling me against his chest before I hit the floor. Easy, he murmurs, too close to my ear. I've got you. It shouldn't help. It does. His scent slams into me full force now. Pine, smoke, winter air, and something darker, wilder, uniquely him. My face presses against the leather and fur at his shoulder, and I breathe him in like oxygen. My wolf practically melts, rolling in his presence, purring so loudly inside me, I can feel it in my bones. She should be terrified, so should I. Instead, there's this awful, aching rightness thrumming under the fear, like a song I've heard from a distance, finally resolving into melody. His hand slides to the back of my neck, fingers threading into my hair, not forcing my head down but holding it there, steady, anchoring. Why? I manage, somewhere between a question and a plea. I feel him inhale slowly, his chest rising against mine, his heartbeat a heavy drum under my palms where they've ended up braced against him. Because, he says, voice roughened to something almost human, I've already killed one woman the moon tied to me. His grip tightens the slightest bit, as if he's afraid I'll vanish. I am trying, he adds, the words like torn fabric, not to make the same mistake twice. Christopher's chambers feel different without him in them. Not empty. His presence clings to the stone and the air like smoke, but thinner, like a storm has rolled just far enough away that you can breathe, even if the sky is still bruised. The door clicks shut behind him and his beta, their voices fading down the corridor, leaving me alone with the fire, the shadows, and the echo of his hands on my skin. I sit on the edge of the bed for a while, fingers pressed to the place on my neck where he held me. My pulse still hasn't settled. Every time I inhale, his scent rises from the furs, from my clothes, from my own skin. My wolf keeps stretching toward it, purring softly like she hasn't understood the part where this man might kill us. Exhaustion drags at me, thick and heavy, but I don't dare lie down. If I close my eyes, I'm afraid I'll slide under whatever hold he's wrapped around my mind and never find my way back. So I stand. The room sways for a heartbeat, then steadies. My bare feet sink into the fur rug as I move, slow and careful, more to keep from unraveling than because I'm truly curious. But my mother always said idle hands invite trouble, and trouble has already invited itself in tonight. The shelves draw me first. Leather spines, cracked and new, some stamped with pack crests, others with symbols I don't recognize. Maps pinned along the wall behind them, marked with pins and inked notes in Christopher's sharp hand. Borders, patrol routes, battle plans, the world he carries on his shoulders laid out in parchment and ink. My gaze snags on the desk tucked beside the window. It's solid, dark wood, scarred with years of use. Papers are stacked with brutal precision. An ink pot, a heavy seal ring, a knife for cutting wax. The chair behind it still holds the faint impression of his body. I shouldn't. The thought is immediate, reflexive. But another thought follows, sharper. He has already condemned my entire life without ever looking past a story someone else told him. If there are answers here, I have as much right to them as he does. I move to the desk. The top is neat, everything in its place. Orders, reports, a list of names I don't recognize. My fingers brush the edge of the wood, and something ripples under my skin. A prickle, like standing in a doorway where two temperatures meet. The top right drawer slides open easily. Quills, extra parchment, wax sticks. The middle drawer holds nothing but neatly folded cloths and a small wooden box of sealing powders. The bottom left doesn't move. I tug again. It gives an inch, then catches hard, metal biting metal. Locked. My heart starts to pound. I don't know why that drawer, of all things, sends a chill up my spine. Maybe it's the way the grain around the keyhole is slightly worn, like fingers have lingered there more than they should. Maybe it's the way my wolf suddenly goes very, very still. Don't, I whisper to myself. My hand is already reaching for the knife on the desk. It's a small thing, meant for sealing wax, but the blade is sharp and narrow. I slide the tip into the keyhole, breath held, fingers working by instinct more than skill. My father taught me how to pick simple locks when I was a child. Laughing as he said it was a useful trick for a clever Omega. He taught me a lot of questionable things. The mechanism resists, then clicks with a tiny, reluctant sigh. The drawer eases open. Inside is almost nothing. Just a folded piece of parchment, edges yellowed with age, tied with a thin strip of leather. My chest tightens before I even see the handwriting. The first curve of ink is enough. My knees nearly give out. My mother's script was always distinctive, sharp and looping at once, like she couldn't decide whether to be precise or wild. The letter lies there with her name flowing across the center of the fold. To Christopher. The world narrows to that one line. I sit in the chair without remembering how, fingers trembling as I untie the leather and unfold the parchment. The crease lines are deep, but the paper is stiff, not softened from being read. The seal at the back is broken but untouched. The wax cracked, not peeled. It was open to be taken, not to be seen. The date in the corner punches the air from my lungs. The day before her execution. Christopher. If you are reading this, it means you chose to listen one more time. Please, I beg you, look again at what you think you know. Her voice unfurls in my head with each line. She writes of my father coming home wrong, of whispered meetings he wouldn't explain, of financial records that didn't match the story the council told, of Marcus of the Northern Pack, always arriving with problems, never solutions, watching her with wolf eyes that weren't just wary, but measuring. There is something moving beneath our feet, she writes, something I cannot see clearly. I fear the trap that is being set will close around you as much as around him. If I must burn for his sins, I will, but I will not let you go to war on a lie. Tears blur the ink. She doesn't defend my father. She doesn't swear he's innocent. She only begs Christopher to think, to question, to check the records himself before he lets grief and rage decide everything. At the bottom, the words shake. If you ever loved me, even a little, do not let them use that love to blind you. Elena. I stare at the signature for a long time. My hands are shaking so hard the parchment rustles. My mother wrote this in the last quiet moments of her life, and he locked it away, unopened, while he killed her and built a kingdom on the ashes. The door slams. I jerk around, heart leaping into my throat. Christopher stands in the doorway, breath a little rougher than before, eyes immediately zeroing in on the open drawer, the letter in my hands, the knife beside them. For the first time since I met him, his expression is naked. Rage, yes, but underneath it, something like panic. What? He says very softly. Are you doing? I rise on unsteady legs, the letter crumpling slightly in my grip. You never read it. His power hits the room in a wave. The fire gutters, the air thickens. You went through my private desk, he snarls, stepping forward. You broke into a locked drawer in my chambers and helped yourself to whatever you liked? Do you think being under my roof makes you untouchable? My wolf whimpers, trying to curl away from the fury rolling off him, but anger sparks in me too, bright and reckless. You left it sealed, I throw back. You sentenced her without even opening the one thing she wrote you before she died. Give it to me. His voice drops, low and dangerous. No. The word rips out of me before I can stop it. His eyes flare gold. No, he repeats. I force my shoulders back, even as every instinct begs me to lower my head. You owe her this much. You owe me this much. Read it. He's in front of me in 3 strides, hand snapping out like he'll tear the parchment from my fingers. I step sideways, faster than either of us expects, the letter held to my chest. Isabella, he growls. She begged you to look deeper, I say, voice breaking. She warned you. About Marcus. About the numbers not adding up. About being framed. You chose not to see it then. Are you really going to do it again? For a moment, all I hear is our breathing, rough and uneven, the crackle of the fire, the frantic drum of my heart. Doubt is a small thing, but I see it. A flicker in his eyes, the tiniest hesitation in his reach, a crack in the certainty he's worn like armor for 5 years. Slowly, as if he's forcing every inch, Christopher lowers his hand. "Give me the letter," he says again. This time it sounds different. I press the parchment into his palm. "Read it," I whisper. Christopher doesn't sit down to read the letter. He stands in the middle of the room, shoulders squared like he's facing an enemy, the parchment trembling just enough in his hand that I notice. The fire pops in the hearth. My heart beats time with every flick of his gaze across my mother's words. The longer he reads, the quieter he becomes. I watch the change in his face in small, brutal stages. First comes confusion, a faint furrow between his brows. Then disbelief, sharp and stubborn, like he's trying to push the words back into a shape that fits the story he's clung to for 5 years. Then something like nausea, all the color draining from his cheeks. "She knew," he says finally, voice rough. "She saw it." I don't trust my voice, so I say nothing. He reads the last lines again, lips moving silently. "If you ever loved me, even a little." His jaw clenches. For a heartbeat, I think he might tear the letter in half, just to make it stop existing. Instead, he folds it with shaking fingers and presses it against his forehead, as if the contact might rewrite time. "I never opened it," he says, more to himself than to me. "I was so sure. The blood, the witnesses, the way your father vanished, I thought—" He cuts himself off, swallowing hard. "I thought she was trying to save him, that she'd chosen him over all of us. Again." My chest aches. "She chose you," I whisper. "She chose the pack. That's why she stayed when he ran." His eyes find mine, and whatever I see there nearly knocks me back a step. Not power, not rage. Guilt. "If this is true," he says, lifting the letter slightly. "If she was framed, if Marcus—" "Think about it," I say quickly, before he can talk himself out of it. "The money trail you mentioned. The payments you said my father took for the patrol routes. You told me they went through the Northern Merchants Guild. My father hated the North. He never dealt with them. He used the Eastern routes, always." His brows draw together. "Those records came from the council, from Marcus and his advisors." "And the witnesses," I press. "The wolves who claimed they saw my father with the rogues? Where are they now?" "On my border councils." His voice is flat, dangerous. "Northern border councils." The room feels suddenly colder. "You promoted them," I say, "after they helped condemn my parents." His presence flares in a sharp, jagged spike, then splinters, not at me but outward, like the rage has lost its target and is trying to claw one out of the stone itself. "I built my reign on this," he says, each word weighted, "on their deaths, on a betrayal that may never have been theirs." "You didn't know," I say, even though the words taste bitter. "He made sure you didn't." He laughs, short and broken. "Ignorance doesn't absolve an alpha, Isabella. It condemns him." We stand in the wreckage of his certainty, breathing the same heavy air. His presence presses against me again, but it isn't a weapon now. It feels like a door ripped off its hinges, leaving everything inside him exposed. The fury, the grief, the unbearable possibility that he killed the wrong person and let the right one sit at his table. "We've both been played," I say softly. "You, me, my mother, the pack. All of us." He looks at me as if he's seeing me clearly for the first time. "You noticed the handwriting," he says. "The merchants, the promotions. You pieced together more in a few hours than I let myself see in years." "I noticed because I had to," I answer, "because it was the only way to live with what you did." His throat works. "I took your mother from you." The rawness in his voice makes my vision blur. "Marcus took her from both of us." For a moment, neither of us moves. The fire crackles, throwing shadows over the maps, over the weapons, over the bed where I'm supposed to either survive or break before dawn. Then someone pounds on the door. The sound is sharp, urgent. Not the cautious knock of a servant afraid to interrupt, but the fist of someone who knows they will be heard. Christopher's head snaps toward it, eyes narrowing. His power slams back into place like armor, the exposed edges retreating just enough to let him breathe. "What," he snarls, "is so important that you dare?" The voice on the other side cuts in, muffled but clear. "My king, it's Marcus. He's arrived from the north without summons. He demands an audience." Our eyes lock. The room seems to shrink around us, the fire's warmth turning thin and brittle. Of course he's here now. Christopher's hand curls tighter around the letter, knuckles whitening. For a heartbeat, I think he'll burn it, throw it into the flames, and pretend none of this ever happened. Instead, he tucks it inside his belt, close to his body. "Tell him," Christopher calls, voice steady again, cold as the mountain air, "that I will see him in the great hall." A pause. "At once, my king." Footsteps retreat down the corridor. Christopher turns back to me. The alpha mask is back on his face, but it doesn't fit as cleanly as before. There are cracks along the edges now, and behind them, something sharp and bright. "Stay here," he orders. "No." The refusal is out before I can temper it. If Marcus framed my family, if he used my mother, my father, me, then this is my fight too. His eyes flash. "This is a confrontation between alphas, Isabella. You are an omega who has already survived more of my presence than is safe. You won't survive his if he decides to use you against me." "Then don't let him," I say. "But I'm not hiding while the wolf who ruined my life pretends he's here to help you." He stares at me, silent, muscles tight. My heart hammers, but I don't look away. Finally, he exhales, a harsh sound like surrender and resolve tangled together. "You will stand behind me," he says. "You will not speak unless I say so. If I tell you to run, you run." "Agreed," I say, even though I don't know if I can obey that last part. He nods once. "Then come, Elena's daughter." His voice is low, lethal. "Let's see just how deep this betrayal goes." The great hall is a beast of stone and shadow. High rafters disappear into darkness, banners hanging like old scars, the blood moon crest bleeding red in the torchlight. Wolves line the tiers carved into the walls, warriors in leather and steel, eyes glowing in the dim. The air crackles with tension, hot and heavy with too many bodies and too much fear. Christopher walks at the front, every step measured, his presence filling the space before we cross the threshold. I follow half a pace behind, as ordered, close enough that the back of his cloak brushes my legs. My heart hammers, but my spine stays straight. The doors swing open. Silence drops like a blade as we enter. At the center of the hall, forced to his knees by two warriors, is a man I don't recognize. His clothes are torn, stained with blood and mud. Silver cuffs bite into his wrists, leaving blistered welts. He smells like rogue. Too many scents layered and wrong, sharpened by desperation. Standing beside him, flanked by northern wolves in dark leathers, is Marcus. He's tall, broad-shouldered, his hair streaked with silver that looks like vanity, not age. His smile when he bows to Christopher is all teeth and no warmth. "My king," he says, voice smooth. "Forgive the intrusion. The matter is urgent." Christopher doesn't sit. He stops a few steps from the dais, close enough that the hall can feel his displeasure. "You arrive unannounced," he says. "With armed wolves and a prisoner, start explaining." Marcus gestures to the rogue. "We captured this one near your eastern border." He claims to run with a pack led by a very familiar name. His gaze slides to me, then back to Christopher, watching. "The traitor Castellano," he says. "Alive, planning another strike, using your mercy toward his whelp as a shield." A low growl ripples through the hall. Dozens of eyes swing toward me, hot and hungry. My skin prickles. Christopher's jaw tightens. "Your proof?" Marcus nods to the warriors. One shoves the rogue's head down. The other cuffs him hard. "Tell him," Marcus orders. "Tell your king what you told us." The rogue licks blood from his lip, eyes flicking up through greasy hair. "We were paid," he rasps. "Same as before. Silver coin, northern stamp. Orders came from a man called Castellano. Said you'd gone soft, Alpha. Said your borders were ripe if we hit at the right time." Murmurs swell. "Same as before," echoes from mouth to mouth like a curse. My stomach twists. Christopher's face doesn't change, but I feel his power coil tighter, drawn in, condensing. "And you met this man?" he asks. "Saw his face?" The rogue hesitates, just a fraction, then nods. "Aye. Tall, dark hair, scar on his left wrist." His eyes flick toward Marcus, and back so quick most would miss it. He said he'd walk free, while his mate and pup burned. Wolves snarl. Someone spits at the floor near me. Marcus's smile sharpens. "You see, my king. The rot you spared now spreads. Mercy is wasted on that bloodline. End it and end the problem." Gasoline on a fire. Some wolves shout agreement. Others shift uneasily, glancing between Christopher and Marcus, scenting the wrongness under the performance. My hands shake, but this is the moment my mother wrote for. The moment she bled for. Hiding now would be the real betrayal. I step forward. The sound of my foot on stone is small, but in the charged stillness, it rings. "I have something to say," I call, before my courage can fail. Marcus's gaze cuts to me, irritation flashing before he smooths it away. "You have nothing, Omega," he says. "Be silent while your betters decide what to do with you." Christopher doesn't tell me to stop. So I keep going. "My mother wrote to him," I say, loud enough to carry, "the day before she died. She said the money used to condemn my father didn't match his dealings, that it came through northern channels he never used. She warned that someone was moving pieces behind him, someone from the north." The hall stirs. Northern. The word slithers through the crowd. Marcus laughs, but it's too sharp. "How convenient that the traitor's daughter produces a ghost letter now. You expect us to believe this?" "I expect you to think," I snap. My voice shakes, but I don't back down. "Look at the records, at who handled the evidence, at who benefited when my parents fell. The wolves who testified against my father now sit on northern councils. The merchants who moved the coin thrive under northern contracts." I sweep the hall with my gaze, forcing them to meet it. 5 years you've all been told one story. Isn't it time you ask who wrote it? A rumble of unease follows that. Not belief, not yet, but doubt. Marcus's eyes are flat. "You've let an Omega's whining cloud your judgment, my king," he says, turning back to Christopher. "She manipulates your guilt for her own survival. I bring you a captured enemy and confirmation that the traitor lives, and you entertain this nonsense?" Christopher steps forward, the floor seeming to bow under the shift of his weight. "Interesting," he says coolly. "You call it nonsense, yet you're very eager to see her dead. Almost as eager as you were 5 years ago." Marcus stiffens. "I was eager to see justice done." "Were you?" Christopher's gaze drops to the rogue. "You. How much were you paid?" The rogue swallows. 2 purses of silver, Alpha. From a man you claim is Castellano, whom you met in person. Describe him again." The hesitation is longer this time. Sweat beads at the rogue's temple. "Tall," he says. "Dark hair, scar on his wrist." Christopher's eyes narrow. "Left or right?" The rogue falters. "Left?" "Interesting," Christopher repeats, "because Hector Castellano's scar was on his right wrist, from a training accident when we were pups." "I know. I was there." The hall goes silent. Marcus's jaw tightens. Scars can change. Wolves can lie. Rogues most of all. This proves nothing, my king. "It proves," Christopher says, voice dropping, "that someone fed this man a description of a wolf he never met." He takes another step, and the air thickens, his alpha presence unfurling through the hall like a living thing. I feel it roll over me, heavy and hot, but it's not aimed at me this time. It surges past, toward Marcus, toward the rogue, toward every wolf who ever touched the lie he's finally willing to see. Who paid you? Christopher asks the rogue, power lacing each word. Say his name, and remember that the next lie out of your mouth will be your last. The rogue's throat works. His gaze darts once more toward Marcus. Marcus takes a half step forward, a casual move that isn't casual at all. My king, we don't have time for this. While you indulge in Omega's delusions, the North burns. We need a clear message. Execute her, prove you are not compromised, and... Compromised, Christopher repeats softly. The temperature in the hall seems to drop, though heat roars off him. His eyes blaze gold, bright and blinding. You stand in my hall, he says, and accuse me of weakness because I listened to the daughter of the woman you helped condemn. A ripple of shock runs through the wolves. Helped condemn. The words hang there like a gauntlet. Marcus bares his teeth. I accuse you of letting her sink her claws into your mind, of letting guilt unmake you. Our enemies smell it. They circle. An alpha who wavers is one who falls. Lightning, that's what his power feels like when it explodes fully. It flashes through the hall, invisible and undeniable, every wolf flinching under the sudden crushing weight of Christopher's dominance. My knees threaten to buckle, but I lock them, dragging air into my lungs in thin, burning threads. I stay standing, beside him. His hand doesn't touch me, but his presence wraps around mine, a shield and a challenge all at once. Careful, Marcus, he says, voice deadly calm. You sound less like a concerned ally and more like a wolf testing another's throat. Gasps. A few growls. The tension shifts, no longer all aimed at me. Marcus's eyes gleam, calculating. Perhaps it is time someone did, he replies. The trap he set for me has snapped on him instead. And for the first time since I entered this hall, I'm not the only one bleeding on its floor. Marcus moves first. One heartbeat, he's a man, eyes gleaming with challenge. The next, bone snaps, skin tears, and his wolf explodes out of him in a blur of silver-white fur and bared teeth. The shift is so fast, the air seems to rip. He launches straight for Christopher's throat. The hall detonates into chaos. Wolves shout, some shifting, some trying to pull back, some surging forward. Steel scrapes stone. Someone screams. The rogue on his knees throws himself flat just in time as Marcus's hulking body clears him in a single lethal leap. Christopher doesn't hesitate. His clothes shred as he shifts mid-step, body elongating, dark fur ripping through skin. One moment he's a man, the next a massive black wolf, bigger than any I've ever seen, muscles coiled under ink-dark fur, eyes the same burning gold. They collide in midair. The sound is sickening, bone against bone, teeth slamming shut on empty space, claws scraping fur and flesh. The impact knocks them sideways, both wolves tumbling across the stone in a snarling tangle, snapping for purchase, for advantage, for blood. The shockwave hits me a second later. Bodies slam into bodies as the hall divides along invisible lines. Wolves loyal to Marcus surge forward, silver and gray blurs launching themselves at the dais. Others leap to shield their king, shifting as they run, howls shaking the rafters. Someone crashes into me from behind. The blow pitches me forward, my ribs slamming into the edge of a lower tier before I bounce and hit the floor. Pain detonates along my side, hot and white, knocking the air from my lungs. For a second, all I can do is wheeze, the world a smear of fur and stone and blood. Get up! My mother's voice, sharp as ever. My wolf whimpers, wanting to roll into a ball and vanish under the nearest bench, but I dig my fingers into the cracks between the flagstones and drag myself to my knees. Across the hall, Christopher and Marcus are a storm of black and silver. Christopher's jaws clamp around Marcus's shoulder, teeth sinking deep, blood blooming dark against pale fur. Marcus twists, ripping free with a spray of red, and rakes his claws down Christopher's side. The sound he makes, half growl, half roar, vibrates through my bones. They're evenly matched. Too evenly. Every wound one inflicts, the other returns. A snarl behind me is the only warning I get. I roll instinctively as a gray wolf lands where my head was, claws skidding on stone. Another comes from the side, teeth flashing. They're coming for the weakest point. For the Omega. Not this time. The shift rips through me on raw panic and stubbornness. I've shifted before, but always slow, careful, guided. This is none of those things. My bones lengthen too fast, muscles stretching until they feel like they'll tear, skin crawling with fire as fur bursts through. For a heartbeat, it's nothing but pain and white noise. Then the world snaps into sharper focus. Smells slam into me first. Blood, sweat, fear, burned tallow, the sharp tang of silver. My own heartbeat thunders loud and fast in my ears, but underneath it is the drum of dozens more. My wolf shakes herself inside this new skin, smaller than the others, golden brown fur bristling, lips pulling back from her teeth. The gray lunges again. I dart sideways on instinct, paws light on the stone. He's bigger, stronger, but he's not expecting speed. I twist under his snapping jaws and slam my shoulder into his legs, knocking him off balance. As he stumbles, I clamp down on the back of his knee, teeth sinking into tendon. He yelps, collapses. Another wolf. A sandy-furred female with Marcus's scent charges me. I release the first and leap back, her jaws closing where my neck was a heartbeat ago. She wheels, fast, and we circle, claws scraping, hackles high. She feints left, goes right. I let her. As she commits, I surge forward into her opening, teeth finding her throat, not deep enough to kill, but deep enough to put her down. We crash together, her momentum carrying us into a bloody, rolling tangle. She tries to rip free, claws raking my flank, hot lines of pain flaring along my side. I don't let go until she goes limp. 2. Pain makes the edges of my vision pulse, but there's no time to take stock. Another wolf barrels into me, all mass and fury. We slam into a column so hard my teeth rattle. Stars explode behind my eyes. He's heavier, pinning me, jaws snapping for my face. I twist, barely, his teeth grazing my muzzle instead of closing around it. My hind legs kick, claws digging into his belly. He grunts, shifting his weight for a better angle. I use the opening. Rolling hard, I slip partly out from under him and drive my teeth into his exposed ear, shaking my head viciously. He howls, jerking back. I release, then lunge for his front leg, jaws closing around the joint. Bone crunches. He collapses with a broken howl. 3. My chest heaves. Blood, mine and theirs, slicks the stones under my paws. Every breath burns. My shoulder is a wet, throbbing mess where claws tore through fur and flesh. But I'm still standing. A roar drags my attention back to the center of the hall. Christopher and Marcus crash into a pillar, stone cracking under the impact. Christopher's black fur is matted with blood along his ribs and neck. Marcus's silver coat is shredded in places, one ear torn, one eye swelling shut. They separate, circling, both panting, both deadly. Movement to my left. Another wolf, larger than any of the others, slinks through the chaos, eyes fixed not on Christopher, but on his flank. On the blind spot every fighter has. Marcus's scent clings to him like a brand. My paws move before the thought finishes forming. I sprint, lungs burning, weaving through snapping jaws and slashing claws. The traitor wolf coils to leap, muscles bunching. If he hits Christopher's exposed side, while Marcus distracts him from the front, I slam into him mid-bound. We tumble, snarling, his weight crushing me briefly before I twist, get my hind legs under his belly, and kick. He flies sideways, slamming into the stair at the base of the dais. I follow, because if I don't, he'll be on his paws again in seconds. We meet in a spray of blood and saliva, teeth clashing. He's stronger. Every impact shudders down my spine. He catches my shoulder with a brutal snap, teeth punching through already torn flesh, and pain explodes down my foreleg. My paw buckles. He goes for my throat. I rear back, but too slow. His jaws close around my neck just below the jaw, pressure crushing, cutting off air. The world narrows to teeth, pain, the frantic thud of my own heart. My hind legs scrabble uselessly against the stone. This is it, I think wildly. This is how I die, forgotten in the middle of a battle I helped start, my body cooling on the same floor where my mother burned. My wolf snarls, rage burning bright even as the edges of my vision go dark. We didn't come this far to end as someone else's message. I twist with everything I have left, not away from him, but into him, driving my already torn shoulder deeper into his grip. His teeth sink farther, but the angle shifts. My forepaw finds the ground again. I brace, shove upward, using the last of my strength to slam him back. The grip on my throat loosens just enough for me to suck in a ragged breath. Somewhere beyond us, two alphas collide again, black and silver, blood and betrayal painting the stones. And I, the smallest wolf in the hall, refuse to go down quietly. The world is teeth and pain and stone. The wolf on my throat tightens his grip, cutting off air, cutting off thought. My legs kick uselessly, claws scraping for purchase. Blood slicks the floor under my back, hot for a moment, before the stone leaches the warmth away. The sound of fighting is a distant roar, muffled by the rush in my ears. Then another sound cuts through everything. A howl. It rips through the stronghold, through bone and marrow, shaking dust from the rafters. It's not just a battle cry, it's a command, a promise, a warning. My wolf recognizes it before my mind does. Christopher. The weight on my throat vanishes so suddenly, I choke on the first broken gasp of air. I roll onto my side, coughing, vision swimming. Through the blur, I see a streak of midnight fur, a black wolf larger than any nightmare, slamming into the traitor who'd been killing me. Jaws close around the other wolf's neck, wrenching him away, tossing him aside like a rag. Christopher plants himself over me. He is a wall of muscle and fury, hackles raised, teeth bared, blood soaking his fur in too many places to count. Marcus's wolves circle, but none of them get close without meeting a slash of claws or a snap of those killing jaws. He fights like he doesn't feel the wounds, like the only thing that matters is the battered omega pressed against his hind legs. Me? I should stay down. Every breath burns. My neck is a torn mess, each inhale a wet rattle. My side is shredded, skin hanging in ragged flaps. Warmth puddles beneath me, leaking faster than my body can replace it. My paws tremble when I try to move. If I lie still, I might live long enough for a healer. Maybe. But then I see him. Marcus, silver white and deadly, circling wide through the chaos. He's limping, one ear half torn, one eye swollen, but his movements are still precise, still calculating. He's looking past the lesser fights now, past the wolves clashing on the tiers, straight at Christopher's exposed flank. My alpha is focused on the three wolves in front of him, fending off jaws and claws, ignoring his own bleeding. He doesn't see Marcus lowering himself for a lunge, muscles bunching, eyes locked on the place just behind his ribs where one good strike could end everything. If Marcus hits him there, it's over. Strength isn't about size, Isabella. It's about what you refuse to surrender. My mother's voice, as clear as if she's standing beside me, instead of buried in the cold ground. I drag myself to my paws. The hall tilts, black creeping in at the edges of my vision. My legs feel carved from rotten wood, threatening to splinter with every step. But I move anyway, one paw in front of the other, slipping through gaps in the fighting, weaving through bodies that are too busy trying not to die to notice the small blood-soaked omega pushing toward the center. Marcus gathers himself. Time slows. I see the way his claws flex against the stone, the twist of his shoulders, the focus in his remaining good eye. He's going for the spine. One leap, one rake, one broken king. Not while I'm still breathing. I lunge. For a heartbeat, I'm weightless, every wound forgotten, every ache burned away in a rush of wild, reckless defiance. My body slots into the space between them, just as Marcus launches. He hits me instead of Christopher. His claws tear straight through my chest, hot agony exploding outward in a shockwave. It's like being ripped open from the inside, every nerve screaming. My body folds around the impact, air leaving my lungs in a soundless howl. But my jaws find him. His throat is right there, exposed for a heartbeat as his weight drives me down. I clamp down on it with everything I have left, teeth sinking into thick fur, then hot flesh. Blood fills my mouth, metallic and choking, but I don't let go. My muscles seize, my vision goes white. Still, I hold. Marcus thrashes, trying to wrench free, claws shredding my sides, my back, my belly. Every movement tears me worse. I can feel skin and muscle parting, bone creaking, organs protesting. My wolf howls inside me, not in fear, but in feral, stubborn refusal. You will not have him, I think, not after everything you took. Somewhere through the haze, another shape barrels in. Christopher. He hits Marcus from behind, with all the force his massive body can muster, teeth closing around the Northern Alpha's spine just above the hips. There's a moment, a terrible, suspended instant, where the three of us are locked together, one chain of blood and teeth and betrayal. Then Christopher's jaws tighten. The crack is loud enough to silence the hall. It echoes off the stone, shuddering through the air, through my bones, through the stunned stillness that follows. Marcus's body jerks once, twice, then goes limp, all the fight leaving him in an instant. His weight slumps over me, pinning me to the blood-slick floor. Christopher releases his grip and shoves the corpse aside with a snarl. The sudden absence of weight makes me sway. I blink slowly, the world coming back in fractured pieces. Wolves stumbling to a halt mid-fight, eyes wide, others staring at Marcus's broken form in shock, the rogue crawling backward, whimpering. Christopher stands over me, his black fur soaked, his flanks heaving, his gaze blazing gold as he sweeps it over the hall. Every wolf he looks at drops their eyes or their muzzles, instinct bowing to the alpha who just ended another. My legs fold. I collapse on my side, unable to hold myself up any longer. The stone is cold against my cheek, the blood beneath me cooling to tacky stickiness. Breathing is a labor. Each inhale feels shallower than the last. Christopher turns, and for the first time since his howl, his eyes soften. He steps closer, lowering his great head until his muzzle brushes my neck, just above the worst of the torn flesh. He inhales, a deep, shuddering breath, as if memorizing my scent. You idiot, his gaze seems to say. My wolf, fading, manages a weak wag of her tail. Worth it, I think, though I'm not sure if the words reach him or if they just echo inside my own skull. Noise seeps back in slowly. The groans of the wounded, the shuffle of paws, the cautious steps of wolves who aren't sure if they should run or kneel. But none of it matters as much as the warmth of Christopher's body blocking the draft, the low rumble in his chest as he stands guard over me. The pack watches. The traitor lies dead. And I, an Omega who should have broken at the first touch of an Alpha King's power, lie in a pool of my own blood and know, with a strange, fierce peace, that I did not surrender. I surface from darkness slowly, as if I'm swimming up through deep water. The first thing I feel is pain, a dull, distant ache that thrums through every inch of me. The second is softness, the give of a mattress beneath my body, the warmth of furs tucked around me instead of cold stone. The third is light. It spills over my closed eyelids, warm and gentle, painting the inside of them gold. Dawn. I blink my eyes open. Christopher's chambers come into focus in pieces. The stone ceiling, the banked fire in the hearth, the tall windows, curtains drawn back to let in a spill of early sunlight that turns the lingering smoke into drifting ribbons. Dust motes float in the air, lazy and bright. I'm in the bed. Bandages wrap my chest and shoulder in tight, careful layers. I can feel smaller ones tugging at my neck, my side, my wrists. Everything hurts, but it's a clean hurt now, the sharp edges dulled by salve and time. I'm alive. The realization settles slowly, heavy and fragile. You're awake. His voice pulls my gaze to the side. Christopher sits in a chair beside the bed, elbows on his knees, hands loosely clasped. He's still in torn, blood-stained clothes, hair mussed, a smear of dried red along his jaw that no one's bothered to wipe away. He looks like a king who's been through a war and hasn't decided if he deserves to rest yet. His eyes, though, are different. The fury that always burned there has faded, replaced by something quieter, rawer. How long? I croak. Most of the night, he says. You shifted back after we dragged you from the hall. You stopped breathing twice. His jaw tightens. The healer said if you hadn't been what you are, you wouldn't have made it. What I am? My voice is rusty. Stubborn, he says, and very, very inconvenient. It's almost a joke. My lips twitch despite the ache. What happened? I ask. He looks down at his hands for a moment, as if assembling the words, then back at me. Marcus spoke before he died, Christopher says. Gloated, really, about how easy it was to twist my grief, how he fed false trails into my investigations, bought witnesses, moved the silver himself. He admitted to ordering the first attack, to framing your father, to letting Elena take the fall because he knew. His voice roughens. He knew I would believe it, that I would rather hate her than face the possibility that my choices had played any part in the slaughter. My chest tightens painfully, whether from wounds or emotion, I can't tell. And my father? I whisper. Alive, Christopher says. Barely. Marcus kept him as leverage, as insurance in case the story needed adjusting. Disgust curls his lip. We found him in a holding cell on the northern border. He'd been tortured for years, forced to repeat the confession Marcus wrote. I close my eyes. I shouldn't be surprised. I am anyway. The man I hated, pitied, mourned, and cursed in equal measure, rotting in some northern hole while the pack spat on his name. Is he? With the healer, Christopher says gently. Recovering. It will be a long road. We sit with that for a moment, both of us staring at nothing. The weight of 5 years presses down, thick and suffocating, made heavier by the knowledge that all of it could have been different if one letter had been opened. I killed her, he says suddenly, hoarsely. Your mother! I killed her! And I didn't even give her the dignity of believing her last words might be truth. I saw what I wanted to see, what hurt the least. I turn my head carefully to look at him. His eyes shine, but no tears fall. He looks like a man who forgot how to cry a long time ago and suddenly remembers he once knew. I can never undo that, he says. I can't give her back to you, or to myself. His throat works, and I can't undo what I did to you, dragging you here, making you pay for his sins, for mine. You stopped, I say softly. You listened. You believed me when you didn't have to. You could have let Marcus finish what he started. His mouth twists. You got between us, again. I seem to be making a habit of that, I murmur. For a heartbeat, something like laughter flickers in his eyes, quickly swallowed. I sentenced you to death, he says, and you saved my life, twice. I lift my hand. It feels heavy, wrapped in bandages, but I manage to reach far enough to catch his fingers where they're clenched together. His hand is warm, solid, rough with old scars. You did what you thought you had to, I say. So did she. So did I. We all bled for this pack in different ways. He stares at our joined hands, like he's not sure when that happened. I can't fix it, he repeats, quieter now. But I can. Try to make something better with what's left. He straightens, slips his fingers more securely around mine. I meant what I said. He continues. You survived the night. Our bargain stands. I will clear your name, publicly, your father's, your mother's. I'll see every record corrected, every liar dragged into the light. His gaze holds mine. I'll give you land, wealth, guard escorts to wherever you want to go, freedom, anything you ask. Anything. The word hangs between us like an open door. I look at him, the man who killed my mother, who carried that guilt like armor, who let it be used against him, the alpha who nearly broke my mind and then shielded my body with his when the world fell apart, the wolf whose scent feels like home to parts of me I didn't know existed. Dawn light spills over his shoulders, turning the edges of his hair to dark bronze. He looks tired, haunted, dangerous, beautiful. I don't want land, I say, or guards, or to run from this place and pretend none of it happened. His brow furrows slightly. What do you want then? I take a breath that hurts and doesn't. To stay, I say, not as your prisoner who survived a night in your bed, not as a debt you owe or a wound you're trying to bandage, as your equal. My voice steadies. As your mate, your Luna. Something cracks open in his eyes. Isabella, he says, my name a warning and a prayer. You don't owe me that. The bond is mine too, I cut in. It isn't her shadow, it isn't penance. It's what we choose to make of it now. I squeeze his hand, as much as the bandages allow. My mother loved you. She died trying to save you from this exact fate. If I walk away, all of this is just blood and ghosts. I don't want ghosts. I want something worth all of it. He looks at me like I've just handed him something precious and terrifying. You're sure? He asks quietly. Life with me will not be easy. The pack will talk. The world will question. You will always be a reminder of what I did wrong. Good, I say. Then you won't forget. Silence stretches, soft and full. Then he leans closer. His free hand lifts, brushing a strand of hair from my face with unbearable gentleness. He hesitates for a fraction of a second, eyes searching mine, giving me one last chance to pull away. I don't. His lips touch mine, careful at first, as if I might shatter. There's blood in the kiss. His, mine, the metallic tang of battle still lingering, but beneath it is something warm and aching and new. My wolf sighs inside me, pressing into the bond, into the heat gathering between us, into the strange, fragile hope blooming in my chest. The sun clears the horizon, flooding the room with gold. When we part, we're both breathing a little harder. His forehead rests against mine, our hands still twined. Then stay, he whispers, as my mate, my Luna, my equal. Done, I say. For the first time since I stepped into this stronghold, the future doesn't feel like a sentence. It feels like a choice. If you're still here listening to Isabella's story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and which moment hit you the hardest. The bargain, the letter, or the final battle. Your favorite part helps shape the next stories.